Hey everybody, we're live. I'm gonna bring in Natalie. Hi Keely. Hello, here she comes.
Hey Deb, can you see and hear me?
I can hear you, I cannot see you.
Okay, let's see.
You need to flip your camera.
Yeah, it's not letting me flip my camera, I don't
Oh
think.
no,
Is that it? Okay,
there you
there we
are.
go.
Yay, Natalie's
User
with
error.
us. I mean, that's always the case. That's what I always blame my husband with is user error for like, he doesn't know where anything is.
Yep,
He can't use the tech. It's all user error for him. So why
yeah,
not?
I'll go with that.
Well, we're so happy to have you in here.
Well,
You
thank
know,
you.
I've been so excited to talk to you about this. I mean, money is not the funnest subject, and you are readily like, you're not offended by that fact. I think you
Yeah,
understand. You're so real about this, and that's why I wanted to have you come on and chat with us. And also, like, we just kind of have to acknowledge that timing is not perfect because people are heading to High Point Market right now. So
that's
we
true.
might not have a ton of people, but I want to have you back again, so it's just a good excuse. So,
Good. Yeah.
so for anybody that's here, and we're recording this, so for anybody who does not know Natalie, this is Natalie Spears. She owns Vintage Gray, which is a bookkeeping firm that specializes in working exclusively with interior designers, which I know is music to all of my clients' ears because their books are like completely different, I think, from pretty much any other business's books. So that specialization is critical. They love to know that you know what you're doing. Natalie has a team of people working to support her at Vintage Gray, and she, I know has a real passion for serving designers, and we'll talk a little bit in a minute about how she got into that. But she's also a wife and a mom of twin boys. So, I have three boys, so we certainly understand each other in that respect. There are, many, many joys and, whatever that boy moms have in common. So anyway, Natalie,
Yes.
thanks so much again for joining us.
Thank
I'm
you.
just
It's good
excited
to
to
see you.
have our people, the people that I know, meet you. I always say, like, this in the room with series is born of my desire for my people to know each other. So since I can't have, a cocktail party or a dinner party, since we're all scattered everywhere, this is in lieu of that. So first thing I really kind of want to know is, well, let me kind of expand on Vintage Gray a little bit and just say that you are a bookkeeping firm, and the way that you encapsulate or capture how your services, what services you provide is and you gave me a list. So clean up and catch up bookkeeping, which I think is probably like good for people to hear, that they don't have to come to you with nice, pristine books. Monthly recurring bookkeeping, project tracking, sales tax tracking and filing, and best practices and processes. So we'll kind of unpack all of that in a minute. So
Wonderful.
tell us, what else about you? How did you get into working exclusively with interior designers? Because I know you don't, like me, you don't have really a design background, until you
Yeah.
started working with designers.
Right. So I'm one of those unique people who did not become a bookkeeper or a coach or consultant because that was my field initially. So I have actually always worked in the area of bookkeeping as early as college years. And so I'll date myself at this point, um, but I did that for other companies, working as an employee for those companies. And I think what will resonate most with your audience, and they'll understand this, is that as a mom of young children, they were twin boys, my husband had a job that took him away from home, away from our hometown, for 2 weeks at a time. And then he would be home 2 weeks. So during that time, it almost was like I was a single mom raising twin boys. And that's very difficult. It's difficult regardless.
Right.
And so what I ended up doing is I wanted a little bit more flexibility than what a traditional employee position was giving me.
Sure.
Now, that doesn't mean I don't work 40 plus hours a week in this business. I do.
Right. Right.
So this is not a hobby for me. This is a business that I run. But what I found, at least in my area of Tennessee, if you can't tell by the accent, I am in the South. And so in my little small town, there are not a lot of work opportunities. So I was actually having to travel long distances. I was on the road a lot. And I found as my children grew that I was really finding it challenging to attend all of their events. And so I branched out and decided to open my own bookkeeping business. Now, at that time, I was only focused on being a generalist, is typically the term that is used in bookkeeping. So I was basically providing bookkeeping services for any industry. And interior design was not on my radar at all. In fact, if I were going to lean toward one industry over another, it would have probably been in the automotive industry, because my husband then was running a business in that industry. So I knew that industry probably best of all because of that. And so at some point along this journey of owning this business and working with these various industries, my first interior designer came to me, and it was just the perfect fit from day one. It made so much sense, and I have loved that industry ever since. Never had exposure to it before then, and it was just the most amazing fit. And at that point, I knew exactly where I needed to put my focus, because she was so great at telling me, okay, this, and this works, but this, and this does not work. And I can't find anything that will help me with that. And I've searched and searched, and can you help me with that? And so we did. And at that time, it was just me, and I helped her with that. And then she was so happy. She said, are you taking on more clients? And so I told her yes, that we would. So she referred us on to other interior designers. We took on those interior designers. They then referred us to others. And that's essentially how we have built our entire business, is strictly through referrals. I'm actually, it's really a miracle that I'm even on this Instagram Live with you right now, because I am an extreme introvert and I'm extremely shy. So the fact that I am even here really is a miracle in itself. I really need to record this date, because I don't do well with marketing. I don't do well with sales. And I just don't like to brag on what we do great. And we do really do amazing, great, high quality work. It's just not something that I'm comfortable bragging about and feeling salesy about. So luckily for me, within the interior design industry, when you do high quality work, word gets out. And so because of that, and because there's such a need for that service specific to that industry, we've built our entire clientele based on referrals.
Amazing. And that's why I love you so much. And we got to know each other. We were talking about this the other day as we were thinking, how do we know each other, backtracking that way? And we were introduced by a mutual who, very smart business coach person, not interior design focused, but who said, oh, you both work with interior designers, you need to know one another. And I immediately loved you, because I knew you, first of all, understood the needs of designers and cared, weren't just like, oh yeah, they think they're different, but they're not. I mean, the needs of designers are so specific. It is such a weird and wonderful industry and so nuanced in every way. I mean, their books are crazy complicated. Their marketing is crazy complicated as well. So we understand that, and we know how to, you and I both know how to take care of our clients in that regard. And so there's that trust there. But also, I loved you because I knew you were the real deal. Like, you know your stuff, but you're not ego driven and all of that kind of thing. Now, what comes with that on the flip side of the coin is this difficulty in putting ourselves forward. And I see that all the time with my clients as well. So, I mean, welcome. You are, amongst, good company.
I'm with
like,
friends.
Yes, I hear it all the time that, like, whether someone considers themselves introverted or not, that feeling of like, oh, if I, talk about what I do well, it'll come across as braggy. And, that's a whole other topic. But just to say that, like, it's because you're humble that you feel that way. Like, I think you never have to worry. If you feel that way, it's kind of like that thing of like, oh, am I a psychopath? Just having that thought means you're not. Like, oh, I don't want to brag. You never will. Like, you will never veer into bragging territory if you're having that thought.
Yeah.
But all this to say, I'm also just thrilled and delighted to have you here and feel completely honored that you would, let us into your brain and your, how you see the financials and the books of interior designers and how you work with your clients. So let's get into it. So I wanted to know a little bit too about, as I said, the books are so complicated. I know I had a client once early on in my business who had been an accountant for like a Fortune 500 company. And then she segued and became an interior designer. And she was like, holy smokes, are these books complicated for designers? Like, it was nothing in the corporate world. I know. I was like, oh, okay, if that doesn't say it all.
Yeah.
Right? So can you talk a little bit about how you advise designers to make their businesses' financials feel more approachable and feel less overwhelming to them?
Yeah. Well, so sometimes what I see when an interior designer first comes to me is often they try to do it on their own. And sometimes they end up with really a mess on their hands. They've turned on settings. Maybe they're trying to use some type of software. We specialize in QuickBooks Online. That's a common accounting software that is very good. It's also very powerful. And so you can do a lot with it, and you can make a huge mess of your books if you're not really careful. And so
it's sometimes, like, just because it can do a million things doesn't mean you need it to do a million things, kind of deal.
Yeah. So sometimes it's necessary for us to kind of rein a designer back in, because designers are, what I have found, are fearless, absolutely fearless business owners. They don't back down from the latest and greatest technology.
No,
they have to be they have to be up to date on the most recent, and I want to say trends, but on the most recent innovations within their industry, so that they can advise on that for their own client projects. But it just becomes very natural for them to also accept the latest technology, the latest software, and to jump in with both feet and just say, let's just do this. That's admirable. And it's one of the main reasons, it's what I saw in that very first designer, and one of the reasons why I love this industry so much is because of that. But having said that, sometimes it can create chaos, and what you end up with is, sometimes I see that they're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it correct, trying to figure out different things to do, and they really don't end up with an organized set of financials that they can understand then the numbers. So none of it
That
makes
makes
sense
sense.
to
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
what we try to do initially is we try to bring clients on, and in that beginning, we try to teach them some best practices and processes to go through using QuickBooks Online to ensure that that they're doing the right steps in the proper
Mm-hmm.
order so that their financials don't end up
Mm-hmm.
basically a hot mess. And
So
so
just kind
that,
of putting up some guardrails around them, like you
yeah,
don't need all that, you don't need all that. Stay in this lane.
yes, yes,
That's good.
and let's get it back to a
Yeah.
simplified version, because sometimes simple really is better.
Well, especially considering, it's complicated enough in terms of, just product and sales tax and services and subcontractors, like that's complicated enough. If you've got all the, toggles and switches flipped in QuickBooks or whatever software tool, and you're trying to get stuff looked at from every different angle, it's going to be like
Yes,
a, just chaos and cacophony. I would also say too that there probably some of that desire to use all the innovations and all the tools and all the latest rollouts, even from within one tool, is because they're not finding that, like, it's not a solve. Like, what exists isn't solving my problem, right?
yes, yes,
Within this tool. And that's probably where you come in as well. Like, okay, it is the tool, you need the right tool, but you also need support usually
yes.
to help you know what to look at and what not to look at.
Yeah, you need to know how to
Yeah.
use your technology, whatever it is. Just like any other
Yeah.
tool of the
Yeah.
trade, you have to know how to use it. And sometimes it requires that specialized technician that can come in and guide you and also help you in some of the areas that you're not going to want to spend that additional time focused on. I've always said bookkeeping is not rocket science. Anyone
It feels
can
like it to
do
me, Natalie.
it does. It
I
does, and I
mean,
get that.
I'm
And
a words
interior
person.
design
Let's
is
be
the same way.
clear. I don't do math in
Oh,
public ever.
oh, that's
That's
true.
not the thing. But I do know what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yes. Could anyone do bookkeeping? Sure. You could learn. You could spend the time that I have spent, the decades that I have spent getting up to speed on bookkeeping, and you could do your own books. That is highly possible. The next question is, do you want
Right.
to, and will you?
Right.
Yes, you can do it, but will
Right.
you? And
Right.
that's the problem then. So here we are at the end of October. By then, I like to recommend that our clients meet with their CPA, sit down with them with their financial reports that we have kept up to date all year long.
Mm-hmm.
We can even put a report package together for our clients that they then present to their CPA. So I want them to go in, sit down with their CPA, and have that meeting in the fall. Usually October is a good time to always do that,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got a few months left to work with. They can see where you are in your year, and then you can have that conversation with them, and they can make suggestions for how you might can reduce that tax liability down before the end of the year. There's only so much a CPA can do if they're in reactive mode. So if they're having
Okay.
to react
Okay.
after the end of the year, there's only a few things that they can advise you on and recommend that you do in your business, versus if you can sit down with them and they can look at your entire financial picture for your entire household, not just your business. You've got potentially other income, other expenses going on that they are aware of, and they can take all of that information and they can give you some strategies for helping reduce that tax liability down. Taxes are not necessarily bad in that, when we start having to pay in taxes, it means that we are making money.
Right.
So that's, that's a
When you
good
owe
thing
zero,
in
it's
and
because
of
you're
itself.
making zero.
It's
Yeah.
because you're not making anything,
Yeah.
or worse yet, you've had a loss in your business, which, you don't want to do that year after
No.
year.
No.
So that's not necessarily bad, but you don't want to have to pay in more than is necessary. You want to stay within the rules and regulations,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to be smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are things that our financial reports that we provide month after month for you can help your CPA, can reduce that meeting time down, and they can just look at those reports and, in less than an hour or something, they can put those numbers together with all of your other numbers for your entire household, and they can see what the full picture is. That can give you a lot of insight this time of year. So here we are at that point, and there's only a few months left before then it's time to put everything together and
Yeah.
submit to file your return.
So I want to talk some more about that whole sort of Venn diagram between bookkeeping, accounting, and then even attorney. But I did forget to say at the top of this, y'all who are in here, we're going to leave some time at the end for questions. Feel free to drop questions in. I kind of have my eye on the chat, but I'd almost rather, I don't want to miss anybody's questions. So just know that if you have any specific questions for Natalie, we'll leave some time at the end for those. So I mean, talking about that, and I do think there is some confusion, like, okay, bookkeeper, accountant, and I have all these questions that are about money or somehow related to money, contracts, etc. Who do I start with? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I recommend, if there's ever a question for our clients, that they first reach out to me. Usually through email is the best way to do that. And they're working directly with me, so that's always nice. And so they can contact me, and then I can let them know if it's something that I can easily answer for them. It might save them the added expense of going to either their attorney or their CPA. A lot of those in that industry bill by the hour, so it's not a fixed rate. Our packages are generally a fixed rate, and so you get, and I say unlimited support because I'm only one person, so if I'm the one answering your question for you, obviously, I'm not going to be answering your question while I'm talking to you, Deb.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a little bit, but we do try to provide as much high quality interaction with you that we possibly can. We don't want to bother you. We know you're busy. But at the same time, if you have a question, then it might be that there's something it's really easy for me to answer. If not, I know enough about those common questions that come through that then I can direct you on to the correct person. That's really something that the CPA can help you with, and you might need to also provide this information and this information. Or this is something that I would lean heavily toward your attorney on and get that scheduled with them. So a common question is like, do you have templates for how we would need to do a proposal or a quote or an estimate, depending on what phrase they use. And I don't.
Yeah.
So that's not
and you
something
shouldn't.
that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
An
something you
attorney.
need to talk to your
Yeah.
attorney about and have
Right.
them build that out. Now, there are amazing coaches and consultants within the interior design industry that I'm sure have provided all of that information, have done all that research on the back end to know what those are. But even then, I would still recommend that you reach out to your attorney.
Same.
At least you could provide them a template if you get something from a
Right.
coach or consultant.
Run it by
So
them.
those are, so those are people, so we have some of those that we highly recommend, that we worked with, that our clients have worked with, that they've been happy with. And because we do know that this is an industry that has some needs in some of those areas, we try to make sure that we find those that are great people to refer, because we don't want to refer. I don't like to refer someone that I don't know is great.
Same. That's why you're here. And I would also say, I mean, it occurs to me that, you saying, hey, when I work with my clients, like my door is open to my clients for any questions and I'm happy to field them and, send them on their way to the right people. I mean, that's kind of, first of all, how designers like to work with their clients on their projects. Like, don't start with the builder or the architect, start with the designer and have them be your sort of point person for all the project questions, and then let them field things, because you don't want their client going to the builder and all of a sudden your builder's picking out a light fixture, heaven
Yeah.
forbid.
I love that
And
example.
I work the same way. Like more in the realm of, like, say, website creation. I mean, I don't build websites, I don't create logos, but I know all the people and I've worked on projects that, we're touching those things. So I know enough about it to know, there are certain questions that I can answer about those other things. And if not, I can refer them on to the people who can. So that's all the same thing. Like, we're, being that point person, you and I, in a similar way that designers want to be the point person for their clients. So
Right.
doors
Right. And as
open,
far
love
as
that.
a CPA, so I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier, where a CPA is going to have all of your information for your entire household. So,
Whereas
in
you're
my
just their
case,
business's
right,
financials. That makes sense.
I'm dealing with one segment of what could be potentially very large. So I'll give you an example. In my own situation, my husband owned a business. We sold that this year. So there were some capital gains that were involved in that. It was a commercial building. He
Yay.
shut that building down. Yes, those are always fun. Just so everyone knows, that usually means a much higher tax bracket
It
and
does
much,
mean
much
that too.
higher
Yeah.
tax
Again,
liability,
you make money,
unfortunately.
then you pay your taxes.
Yeah, unfortunately, we make money and then we hand it off to the IRS. But if I was just asking a bookkeeper to look at just my company's financials, that would not be the entire picture. So, and we even
Right.
include our CPA in questions involving, our twin boys just started college this year. So there are questions surrounding that. They're out of state, and
Yeah.
how's that going to affect us? How's that going to, what is the situation if they want to get a part-time job? So lots of questions like that. So some of those things, while we can provide you with current monthly financial statements that can then be passed off to that CPA and you sit down. And I really like to recommend a local CPA,
I
one
was
in your
just going to
state.
say, yeah, I was just going to ask you that, because the laws are different.
Yeah, and they're certified in the state where they are located. So, and they're going to be most familiar with the requirements for that state. I mean, Tennessee has different requirements than, say, Alabama. And I'm literally only about a 30-minute, 40-minute drive from the state line of Alabama. It's also very different than Mississippi, and I'm about 30 minutes from Mississippi. But I really try to work with a CPA that is at least local to my state. Doesn't mean that it can't be done. My CPA has told me someday if I get to retire and move to the beach in Florida, then he will still be our CPA. So
Still be
that was
happy to serve
thrilling
you
to
from the
know.
beach in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. He might do on-site visits at that point. I don't know, rather than virtual, but find a good one that is a good fit. Find one that is not afraid to work with your bookkeeper if they want
Yes.
to. That's also, that's not negative about the fact that you have other people helping you in your business. So that's
Same
important.
way that designers want, architects and builders to be open to that whole team,
Yes,
collaborative. Collaborative. That's the right word.
yeah.
Scenario. Right. Same thing. Teamwork.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I love that
Yeah.
example that you use. That's
There's so many
awesome.
parallels, really,
There is.
when you really think about it, how we work and how they work, even though the end product is completely different.
Yes.
But it's just really true. So, you also gave me some points about things that you often say to your clients that you find yourself repeating again and again and again. And they were just so interesting to me and so perfect that I wanted to like kind of go through each of them one at a
Okay.
time and just bring these up here and now. So, first of all, the first thing that you say is it is okay if your financials are currently a hot mess. So
Yes.
tell us
Yes.
about that. Coming to you cold with, I don't know, receipts and boxes or whatever. I mean, maybe you don't want that, but
So, so sometimes it's a result of a variety of different situations. Either designers have tried to work, say, in something like QBO themselves, and because it is
QBO,
so
QuickBooks Online, by the way.
QuickBooks
Yeah.
Online, yep, just because it is such a powerful tool and it does have a lot of capabilities, sometimes that can cause you to end up with a hot mess of your financials, trying to do the right thing. So that's one scenario. Another scenario could be that you really just stuck your head in the sand and ignored it for a while. So I've had clients come to me who
That's
have
how I
not
started out. Yeah.
who
I
have
did
not
that.
filed their sales tax returns for over a year, and they've just ignored them. No, don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to do anything with it. Had that situation, so that's another scenario. Another scenario is that they might have had tried to receive help, and maybe they had someone that maybe didn't specialize in their industry, so they weren't really understanding exactly how things needed to be set up, or maybe they just got a bad provider overall.
Yeah.
So different scenarios, or maybe a family member said, "Yeah, I know a little bit about QBO. Let me, could be a variety of different things." But for whatever reason, they're coming to me, and one of the initial ways that you can get to know me and what services we provide is I do offer a complimentary consultation. It usually lasts about an hour. It takes about that long to find out about your business and what your specific needs are, so that then we can move to another phase after that point. And so near the end of the conversation, a lot of times, I find it almost humorous that a lot of designers, when it gets ready for me to maybe review what their current financials look like so that I can provide maybe a detailed review of what's good and what's bad, and put together a proposal or a quote to them for what our services I would most recommend to them and what the cost of those would be. They
Do they go,
so many times I
so
will say,
sorry?
"I'm so sorry." When you get in there, it is awful. You are going to see a mess. I think it's like we sometimes do as women when someone comes over. "Oh, don't look at this room. Let me close this door. Don't look at this room. I didn't have time to
I
clean
am
this one."
quite sure the people in this room right now have experienced that with designer clients, right? Like homeowner clients. I am sure, right? It's
Yeah.
that it's shame. It boils down to shame.
I hired a housekeeper, and I literally went through my home and did a full-blown deep clean house cleaning before they came to look at it to be able to give me an estimate of what it would cost. So I'm the same way.
We've all been there.
Yeah, but I just want everyone to know that it's okay. It's okay to come with it being a hot mess. You don't have to clean it up before you come to me. And there's no shame in that. I don't know how to do interior design. I wouldn't have no idea where to start. I mean, do you see my plain wall back there? It looks like I'm doing this Instagram live from a jail cell. I promise this is
You
Robin
didn't
egg
wear your orange
blue.
jumpsuit, so
I
we didn't
didn't.
assume that.
They let me wear from the waist up. But yeah, I wouldn't know where to start. So it's not expected for you to have great looking books. In fact, I wouldn't know what to do. If you came to me and you had pristine books, I would say, "Why are you coming to me? You don't even need me."
Okay, that is an interesting perspective, right? So everybody in here, think about that. If your books were perfect, you wouldn't need Natalie. You wouldn't need any bookkeeping help. Like, why? So that's the same thing of if you walked into an Instagram live, of course. And I got a package delivery too. I'm surprised my dog didn't bark. No, you know, if you walked into a, you know, magazine worthy space and, you know, as a designer, you're going, well, why do you need me? I mean, yeah, maybe they want to change it up, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, I would assume that 99, if not 100% of the people that come to you, the books are a bit of a mess and you think nothing of it. Like, the last thing you want is for people to feel ashamed and embarrassed and bothered.
Right, because I mean, I'm already expecting them to be bad just based on what they've told me in the consultation. So there's no shame in that. Now,
and you're not judging them.
no, because it's a complicated industry. It really is a complicated industry, and I like to say that, you know, designers are one side of the brain, whereas bookkeepers tend to be the opposite side of the brain. So, and I always like to say that, you know, you're more the creative type rather than focusing on the numbers. Does not mean, however, that you should not be focused on your numbers. It does not mean that that's just a free ride to say, well, you know, I don't understand my numbers. I'm just going to totally ignore them, and I'm going to keep doing this design work. You still need to know those numbers, whether you have a bookkeeper doing that for you or whether you are doing it yourself. You need to be up to date on your numbers. I mean, our clients have their financials for the previous month already. You know, we were probably a week in, 2 weeks tops in for anyone that wasn't dragging their feet, closing out their financials for the previous month. So our designers know their numbers. So up through the end of September, they know their financials. They know what their bottom line number is. So that's one thing that I want just to ask your audience. Do you know what your numbers are? Because if you don't, then you may be underpricing. You may not be making a profit. I can't tell you the number of cleanup, catch-up jobs that I have done for interior designers, only to sit down with them at the end of that cleanup and catch-up and review those reports, and it be so surprising. Wow, that's all I made. I'm working so hard, and that's all I made. Well, that's okay, but let's break that down and let's see why that might be low. And so then we start digging into it, and then they can make strategic decisions and changes in what they're doing so that they don't continue down that wrong path.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, that's heartbreaking. The thought of continuing down that wrong path, because that is a path that leads to closing your doors on your business.
Yes.
I mean,
and I don't want to scare everyone. Some get to that meeting and they say, oh, I made more than I thought I did.
Right.
You know,
happy surprised.
There's both scenarios. But in that case, maybe they were holding out and not investing in that coach and consultant that they really wanted, or maybe they held off on going to High Point this year because they didn't think that they were making enough money in their business. Maybe they weren't paying themselves enough each month. They were reinvesting it back into the business because they didn't think that the business was making enough profit. And once they see the numbers, then they can, I can go to High Point. I could have done that this year. I really wanted to do that.
So what I love about this conversation and the idea of, you know, designers working with you is because, I mean, and not to say that there aren't CPAs out there like you who have, you know, an empathetic view. I do think sometimes numbers people can be very cut and dried. You know, CPAs could be very cut and dried about all of this. And you understand that, you know, you're getting into, first of all, you know, some mindset stuff, like we talked about, the shame kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
But also that the numbers don't lie. And so when we're seeing a picture from the numbers, that can be like, hard to face. So having you also there to say, okay, if these numbers are showing us a picture that's not healthy right now, it's still okay because there's a path forward.
Right.
Now let's talk about the path forward, right? So you're also talking to them about strategy and pricing and things like that, correct?
Correct. So if you don't even know that the problem exists,
Yeah.
you can't fix it. And that's what I see often when we are finished with a cleanup or catch up, is finally for the first time sometimes since they first began their business. And this could be a designer who's only a year old. This could be a designer who's been in business for years
Yep.
and years. And for the very first time, they are finally seeing their numbers and understanding what they're looking at.
Yep.
So I really try to, one of our core values is actually a KISS, keep
Yeah.
it simple, sister. I say sister, it could be silly or stupid.
Yeah,
I don't like to use stupid, but
no, I like keep it simple, sister.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah. I would say a greater percentage of designers are women. And so, you have a lot on your plate. You're juggling a lot of different things. And so once we do that cleanup catch up, then we're giving you those recurring monthly reports so that you're seeing it every single month. So let's say we talk, and that's one of the services that we provide. We can meet with you monthly to go over those reports in greater detail, to really dig into the weeds and figure out, well, why was this net income this number this time? Then we can talk about that, and we can strategize and help you with those type of business decisions that you're needing to make. So we kind of work backwards from that bottom line number back up to the top to see where do we need to be on this top number. And so then you can kind of start setting goals, whether that be mental or you're actually writing them down. I'm a business owner as well, so I can relate with my clients when I meet with them. And it's one of the things that I dreaded most when I first started this business was that monthly meeting. Again, back to that being an introvert and shy. Now it is probably my most favorite task in any given day is actually sitting down for that monthly meeting with clients, because almost every single time we shed a light on something. I've had conversations with clients about the fact that they want to get involved in a mastermind, maybe a monthly mastermind, and they ask me about the monthly, the mastermind that I'm in, and we discuss that. And it's your time. It's your time to discuss those things. So we'll go through, and then you're getting educated. So you're learning how to understand the numbers that you're seeing on your profit and loss, oftentimes referred to as an income statement. And we also look at your balance sheet. And then if there are custom reports that you need, we also look at those. Now, everybody at this point, their eyes have glazed over because I've started rattling off. I've gotten into
See how empathetic you are. You get it.
So we'll stop there.
No, I love all of that. And you're so right in that monthly touch point alone, that monthly meeting, like, to me, that first of all puts a container around looking at your numbers. Like, that is a built-in, if nothing else, that is a built-in, like, we're doing this. There's no more burying the head in the sand kind of thing. And that's definitely where I was before I started working with my bookkeeper, and she's also my accountant. I only don't work with you because you only work with interior designers.
Right.
But all this to say, she, putting that container around having to dig in and figure out what's actually going on. And then what else? What else comes up? That you are also, like you said, a peer with your clients, and that you're also a business owner and an entrepreneur. So, I mean, that to me is like magical
Yeah.
to be able to create growth in addition to keeping their books clean and up to date and all of those things. I mean, so fabulous.
Lots of conversations come out of that.
Yeah.
Like once they see those numbers, then they're able to look past that.
Yeah.
Once they get past, as a designer, once you can get past the compliance part of it. Okay, I've got my monthly reports done.
Yep. Like check. Yeah.
And my sales tax is filed. Okay, I'm good there. I know everything. Then it's like, wow, now what?
Now we can grow.
It frees you up mentally to then start seeing sort of a path forward and start thinking, working on your business rather than in your business. So you're seeing those numbers, and then you can start, so conversations, examples of those would be things like, I really need some help. So I've brought on some projects and I could use some help. I'm overwhelmed on the design side. I would love to bring on a design assistant or maybe an admin assistant to help. How much could I afford? And so we start looking at those kind of numbers and running hypotheticals and seeing what is possible for them. We also talk about, 1099 contractor versus W-2 employee situations and what that entails. So lots of conversations come out of that.
Beautiful stuff. Going back to your list of things that you say often, and you mentioned the keep it simple, sister, or sweetie, or whatever. So we mentioned that, but one thing that you said too is don't commingle your funds. So keeping your business and your personal monies separate. Don't use your personal credit card for your business stuff and vice versa, right? Is that what you mean by that?
Yes, and we've all done that. Anybody who's a business owner has done that at least once. It's okay, forgive yourself if you have done that, but stop doing it on a routine basis. I realize there's those occasions where, maybe you get over to the local store and you find something for a project that just is the perfect accessory that you need for this one little spot on this project. And you, for whatever reason, you swap purses and you don't have your business credit card with you. And so you have to spend it on your personal credit card. That's okay. But what I mean when I say just avoid commingling is don't go and buy your weekly family's groceries on your business credit card.
Like,
don't
make it a habit. Don't habitually do those things.
Yes.
And have separate bank accounts and all those things for your business.
Have separate accounts. So usually what we see most designers when they first are starting out and can grow substantially with just this is usually a business checking account and a business credit card account. As they grow, they may bring on additional credit cards or at least sub cards or file cards under that main card. So when they have team members, those team members have cards. Others may bring on a savings account or a second checking account to sort of set aside either a percentage of profits maybe that they want to pay themselves out of their business, or they want to set aside their sales tax liability or something of that nature, or maybe they want to separate it out if they wanted to collect maybe a deposit or retainer, a lump of money up front on a project to purchase products. They may want to transfer that over to that second account. But commingling of funds can end up, if you are a an LLC, a limited liability company, which that's the most common that I see nowadays. Say limited liability company, an LLC, you're setting your business up that way initially,
Right.
or that was advised to you by an attorney or by a CPA. One of the advantages of setting up an LLC is because it protects you in the event of some type of liability situation.
The
So,
heaven forbid kind of things
yeah,
that
case
hopefully not.
scenario,
Yeah.
let's say something happens in your business and you're held liable. In the court of law, you could end up, not only could your assets related to your business be affected, but also your personal assets could be affected if you have shown habitual commingling of funds, if you don't have
Don't want
separate
that.
accounts.
Right.
You're basically, it's termed piercing the corporate veil. So you're basically crossing that line over into your business from your personal. And so what that tells the IRS is that, and the federal government, what that's telling them is that they're really not separate after all. They were always one and the same. So that's one advantage. The second advantage, and maybe a little more pertinent to most people, because hopefully most designers are not in a liability situation.
Yeah.
The more important aspect is it's so much easier for your bookkeeper, for your CPA to provide the services that we need to provide to you if we know that everything coming in and out of this account is business related. But if you've got a purchase for a football game, and you've got a purchase for Disney World, and you've got a purchase for your weekly groceries in there, how do we know which one of those are personal and business related? So it's more time consuming on our end, because more communication has to happen with me and you for us to know which ones are personal and which ones are business. So if just don't do it.
Keep it clean.
Business 101, don't commingle funds.
Love it. Well, and then lastly, you had said not to pass the credit card processing fees on to your clients.
Yes.
And, or to make a different cost if they pay you cash versus if they pay you by credit. So, which I think is a really interesting one too, because I hear that question a lot too. I mean, it's funny, I'm, messaging and copy, but people ask me like, what do your other clients do? Do you know? Are they, charging extra for that credit card fee? And I mean, the answer that I actually do know, because people talk about these things, is it depends. It's, everybody does it differently. But so tell us about why you advise not to pass that on and how to do it instead.
So I recommend not making that an obstacle for your potential client when they are on that 1 yard line, ready to sign, write the check, ready to pay you, or more than likely swipe the credit card. If everything is the same between you and another designer that they are interviewing for your services, if they are considering two different designers and everything is the same, and they get to that final day and they're ready to pay, and the difference is they can use their credit card with designer A but can't use their credit card with you, or the difference is they're going to be charged the credit card processing fees on yours, then all of a sudden you are shining a light on an area that is so minimal compared to the overall project as a whole. Why suddenly shine a light on the such a minimal expense? Why do you want to shine a light on that when they're ready to sign with you? You're making them feel like they're being punished.
Yeah, like nickel and diming them. And
Yes. And one of the best ways to look at this is, how would you feel if you went to your local Walmart and you purchased, say, a large screen TV the weekend of the Super Bowl, and you get up to the register and the cashier says, okay, it's going to be $1,000 if you pay me with cash or check, but it's going to be 1,000 whatever, thousand, I don't know, thousand,
Whatever.
1,200. It would be
Yeah.
$1,300 if you pay with credit card. Well, you were planning on paying with credit card because you really needed to space that payment out between the next 3 months. So you needed to divide that 1,000 out amongst 3 payments over the next 3 credit card bills. You weren't actually going to pay it off when the bill comes due this time. So it allows you to sort of make payments on a large purchase. It is possible that a lot of homeowners might want to split that out between several credit card payments. They may not want to tell you that. Or they may have the cash readily available in a checking account, but maybe they don't want to use it on that. Maybe they still want to use their card. And this is a scenario I've been told happens from time to time. Maybe the spouse wants to hide it from their spouse.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you don't want to know about that, right? If that's happening, just blah, blah, blah. Yep.
Yeah, the full cost.
You really advise baking those fees into the proposal in the first place. So whatever percentage it is, go ahead and bake that in. And then if they're not paying by credit card, you just get that anyway, right? Is that how that works?
Think of it. You have software that you purchase every month. So you've got some type of specialty. You've got your liability insurance. You've got your business phone. Do you line item that out on your invoice to your client? Okay, well, I have this business cell phone, so your project is this much, so we're going to take this percentage of my cell phone bill, and I'm going to pass this on to you. Now, you do build that into your invoices somehow. Otherwise, you would have a loss every month. So your general expenses, consider it the cost of doing business. Build it in somewhere else.
We do have one question that I want to get to.
Okay.
The Design Sense Studio is asking, I have inventory due to staging for photography. Should I assign these expenses to the job I worked on? Because I may use some of these same pieces on another photo shoot project. Does that make sense?
I would not. Yeah, I would not consider that part of the cost of the project.
Okay.
So
if you're not selling those items to that client, right?
Right. If you're not selling those to that client, I would not consider that part of the cost of the project.
Okay. So what would that go under in your accounting? Would that be, I mean, it's a cost of doing business, so.
Yeah. So we actually, because photography and photo shoots are such a critical part of interior designers, we actually do just have that as its own category.
Yep. That makes sense. And staging items would go under there.
And it's actually more of a general operating expense. Rather, so similar to how your cell phone is or your liability insurance. It's not really tied to a specific client. Now, if you did sell certain items to your client, then yes, those would need to be categorized.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but we actually do have photography and even then sometimes a subcategory of photo shoot supplies and services.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions in the last couple of minutes? Throw them out there now, and otherwise I'm gonna tell you how you can reach Natalie on your own, and she does have a little offer for you. So she is offering, and I'm gonna go ahead and just say this because I have it in front of me, Natalie, if you don't mind.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Natalie offers a 1-hour free consultation, and you can schedule that at Vintage Gray LLC. It's Vintage Gray with an E.
Yep. Grey.
Grey. Vintage Gray with an E LLC.com /scheduler. And if you determine together that from that consultation that you'll be a good fit in working together, you'll figure out a complimentary diagnostic review. Figure it out if that's needed.
Right.
And if you guys reference the promo code, and I love this, hot mess when you sign up and sign up for monthly recurring bookkeeping services between now and January 31st of 2025. You'll get 25% off for the first 3 months of the monthly recurring bookkeeping charge.
Yes.
So that's a really good deal.
Hopefully it is. And hopefully by using hot mess as a promo code, maybe that alleviates some of the negative stigma around that phrase.
Absolutely. We have to laugh because we're all hot messes when it comes to, I mean, many things, but you know, our books without the help of experts like you, Natalie. So
well,
thank you
businesses
so
do
much.
have a lot of back end, are usually a hot mess on the back end. I mean, that's just the nature of it.
Why we don't show. And yeah, Megan says this has been great. So much great info. So
thank you, Meg.
Also, you can contact Natalie either through her website or through her email, which is nspears, SPEARS, at vintagegray with an E, LLC.com.
Yep.
So thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you in next month's Instagram Live, and we'll be bringing Natalie back soon for another session. There's just too much to talk about, and she's so fun. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Deb.
Y'all have a good day. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.